Ah, it's so good. Ricky Ponting, welcome.
Nice to be here. Looking forward to this little chat.
Now, just to let you know, we have a lot of Indian listeners out there. I understand you're not quite popular at the moment, but I don't want to talk about cricket. I want to talk about this wine because I want to get it out of the way because you've just stuffed one in the front of my face. Tell us a bit about the Pinnacle. This is the Shiraz 2022.
I thought it'd be rude to come in and not bring a couple of bottles with me. And I believe that you've sampled it before and
I have.
Couldn't get enough of it. So,
he's a mad sampler.
So it wasn't just the one bottle today. We made sure we brought a couple in. The Pinnacle Shiraz.
Okay, I can say this.
Don't be rude, Brian.
No, I'm just saying the bouquet. What do you call it?
yeah.
Is that right?
Keep going, yeah.
Yeah. It smells quite a lot stronger than the last one I had. Why is this
different
one?
region? I think what you might have had last time might have been the 127, which is a Barossa Shiraz. Ooh, yeah. This one is a McLaren Vale Shiraz. So you'll notice with the bottles, you read the stories on the back of the bottles. I mean, the Pinnacle. So the labelling, start with the labelling, right? It's supposed to look like the creams of a test match colour.
Gotcha.
The caps, baggy green sort of
very
colour.
Lords-like.
Bit of that involved. I wanted it to look really classy and premium. We see ourselves as a premium wine brand, so I think everything about it, except for the name on it probably, this is a bit of class. And Pinnacle, a lot of the names are tied into cricket and where I came from, my background, and some of the experiences that I had during my playing days. So the Pinnacle talks about Ashes cricket. So
that's what your Pinnacle is?
Absolutely, yeah. I think for every young Australian, it certainly was when I was coming through, every young Englishman when I was coming through, I think if you asked them what their Pinnacle would be, they would talk about Ashes cricket. And we've got a big series coming up, you just touched on before, and that rivalry is growing pretty quickly as well. So, look, this business is 4.5 years old. Never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be sitting here talking about my own wine brand. And there's blokes back at my local cricket club in northern Tasmania that are thinking, what's this bloke really on about? You know, we used to see him with a Bogues draft in his hand, and now he's swanning around with a Barossa Valley red wine or a Tasmanian Pinot Noir. But it's been a great journey. It's been a lot of fun. My wife and I have been wine drinkers and wine lovers for a long time, and we've been lucky to travel around the world and sample some great wine regions of the world. So here we are, as I said, nearly 5 years in with our own little brand.
Ricky, speaking about Pinnacle now, a Pinnacle for me, I've always wanted, those morning shows where they get the teleprompter up? Moira, yeah. So I've always wanted to do that. You look at that camera, I'll look at that, and pretend we've got auto cue, right?
Right.
And it's a morning program, so I'll say this. So, Ricky, can we get the Ponting Wines on the Royal Caribbean?
Well, we certainly can, actually. Every bar, every restaurant on every Royal Caribbean cruise through the Australian summer, they've got the two ships. I've actually been down there on one this morning. Been down on one here this morning, actually, in Sydney. But no, you can pick them up. So we've got 6 wines on every cruise throughout the summer. Served in every bar and every restaurant on every cruise. And when you think about that, there's about 5,500 people on those cruise liners every time they sail. And, for us to have a relationship like that started last year and has grown really well for us this year, we've been able to expand. And then obviously when you're on the cruise, if you're enjoying our wines on the cruise, when you get off and walk across the road to a bottle shop, hopefully it's sitting there in front of you as well, and you can go and enjoy one there. So, we're really happy with that, the relationship that we've got and the partnership that we've got with Royal Caribbean. They've been great.
Good. Brian, that was good, wasn't it?
That was very, very
I need a little bit more experience on the infomercial side of things.
No, but the fact you had no auto cue, you were just doing Ponting things.
Yeah.
So, Ricky, who approached who when you wanted to get into the wine business? Was it something that...
A bloke that's sitting out the back there.
They came to you because they knew that you were interested in wine?
Yeah, I think he knew I was going to be a pretty easy get.
Yeah,
basically. No, look, he's sitting out the back, got a big smile on his face. David Cranich, who you guys have had in here in the past, our business partner. Look, I was literally at home early in the morning. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I just think
having your first drink. Yeah.
It was actually my second last one. I'd been back from school drop off for about half an hour. So sitting at home, got a call, David Cranich, and I thought, what's this going to be about? And then he just laid it on the line. What do you reckon? What do you reckon about starting your own label and your own brand? And Rihanna was sitting beside me in the bedroom, and I said, just give me a minute. I'll have a chat with Rihanna, my wife, and I'll give you a call back. And I reckon it was under a minute before I was back on the phone to him, and she said, "Yeah, let's do it. Why not? We both love it. It'd be a great industry to be involved in." We probably didn't understand how big the industry was that we were about to launch ourselves into, and it was, as things worked out, our national launch date for the brand actually was the first day that Victoria went into lockdown back in those COVID days. So things weren't smooth sailing right from the start. But I'm sure you, like probably me, during those COVID times,
Oh,
we're probably
so
happy
good.
to sit back at home and have a glass of wine in the afternoon or in the evenings, and that's so the business got off to a good start with that.
Ricky, look at this name. This name Ponting, right? This name Ponting, which wasn't so familiar to Australians 20 years ago. Ponting is the name. And in the Daily Telegraph yesterday, there was this, 80 million people following a certain Indian player now. I forget who the player is, but Tendulkar, Lara, Ponting. Your name is forever in that conversation. Why and how? Like, tell us about the Ponting story. Like, were you a superstar as a kid, and was there a sliding doors moment that the name Ponting becomes Ricky Ponting as we know it today?
Geez, where do I start answering that? Look, I grew up. You'd probably say grew up on the wrong side of the tracks.
Did you?
In Tassie? Yeah. Look, I lived in housing commission homes until I was playing cricket for Australia, and so I was packing up. Well, I'll tell you where it all started. I mean, I got identified at a young age, primary school cricket. Went to the cricket academy as a 15-year-old. At that stage, was the youngest player ever to go through the cricket academy. Rod Marsh had obviously been told about me or seen something in me that he liked, and so I go over to the academy as a 15-year-old, hanging out with 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds, and even Morning popped in for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
but can I just ask this though? But why? Like, were you just a natural talent, or were you doing more than the next person? Why?
No, I was a natural. I was born with my fair share of natural talent. My dad was a very gifted sportsman.
Was he?
With everything. Yeah, played golf off scratch at 14 or 15.
Right.
Opened the batting for my local club team at a young age. Played highest level Aussie rules footy in Tassie. But he was happy just to have a game with his mates. That's all he wanted to have a few beers on a Friday night and have a few more beers on a Saturday night when the game was over, and never really dedicated himself to be the best that he could be at anything. And then I was born. He saw that I had a bit of talent, and he just drummed into me every day that don't waste it.
Really?
Don't maybe do what I.
So without Dad, we're not seeing Ponting on a wine glass.
Probably not.
On a wine bottle.
No, and I had some footsteps to follow. When I say my dad was a good sportsman, my mum's side of the family were pretty talented as well. My uncle Greg Campbell actually played a few test matches for Australia, went on the 89 Ashes tour to England, played a few one-days as well, and so I idolised him growing up. So he gave me the path to follow. Like when I was 10, he was doing what I aspired to do. He was playing A grade for Mowbray Cricket Club. He was playing state cricket for Tassie, and then at as I said, when I was 15, he got picked on that Ashes tour in 89, and then I remember I was actually at my grandmother's house when his kit bag turned up. So his Australian kit bag turned up at his house, being delivered.
You rate it?
I was absolutely. Yeah. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know this. He actually doesn't know, because I actually put his bag of green on before he did.
Wow.
No, I didn't dare put it on, but I got it out of his bag and had a good feel of it. And actually, the first thing I wanted to do for some, I don't know why it was, but I wanted to smell it. I wanted to smell what a bag of green.
Joel does that with my undies.
I do.
He loves doing that.
Haven't put them on yet, though.
Couple more red wines.
Yeah.
Ricky, I want to fast forward to when you were captain. Now, I don't know of another sport in the world where the captain is so influential on a selection of a team. When you were you seemed to me like a bit of a knockabout. And did you have to change the way you thought or you acted? Because now you're the captain, and I understand sometimes you've got to drop players. Did you have to change, my question probably is, did you grow into the captaincy role, or do you think you always had it?
I think I had leadership qualities. As you say, I was a rat bag, no doubt about it. I was...
And we're all rat bags.
Yeah, and part of the reason I think for that, I mean, looking back now, I was always the young kid in every team, right? So I'd always play that sort of rat bag role. I was 13 in my state under 17 team. I'm
17?
In the
13
and then I was 17, making my debut for Tassie at 17, and I'm 19 or 20 in the Australian squad on my first tour to the West Indies. So I was sort of the young larrikin, if you like, rat bag in the team. But I still always had, I think, a pretty good eye for the game, and whether I was I looked at myself when I was at training as that young bloke as being able to lead the way that training went. So I trained harder than anyone. Simple as that. I was always an example setter. Even if I was 17, I was trying to show Steve Waugh and Mark Waugh that I was a better fielder than them, or I bowled to them in the nets and try and hit them in the head every ball, or whatever it was. And when I was on the field, because I never had the chance to be a leader, because I was always the young kid, I tried to sit back and think about what I would do as if I was captain now. So I was always looking at it through captain's eyes to try and learn from myself, and see if I could, if the role ever came my way down the track, that I'd be well equipped for it. So. So your point, did I learn on? I mean, you learn on the run, yes. And I wasn't the finished product when I took over as captain. Probably wasn't the finished product when I finished. But I didn't. The one thing that I was really conscious of was not changing myself as a person in the team because I
Which
knew,
would be hard not to, right?
No, I don't. No, it's got to be harder to change who you are, don't it, than just remain who you are.
Being like the leader now, and you've got to set that example. I would think if you're captain of Australia and you've got to make those hard decisions. Like I remember, I think I was reading Steve Waugh's book, and he was talking about how he had to drop certain players. And was that an issue for you?
Oh, well, look, at the end of the day, as captain, you don't drop them anyways. The captain was never a selector.
Yeah.
Right. So we weren't actually a selector. We were asked for our thoughts and views and opinions on players, and then the selectors would go and make those calls. But 98% of the time, we would have got what we wanted.
Yes.
And so for Stephen would have never had to tell anyone that they were dropped because it was out of his hands anyway.
But the players would know it's coming.
Well, when I was captain, I was pushing Cricket Australia every year to say, please, let me be a selector.
Yeah.
I want to be a selector, so I wanted to be able to give the message to the player.
Yeah,
the player's going to respect it coming from the captain more than he is from the selectors. Yeah. They didn't do it when I was captain, and the moment I stepped down, Michael Clark became a selector of the Australian cricket team. Which probably didn't go down that well either, to be honest. And I don't think it is now. I think it might have happened for a couple of years, and then might have been taken back away from the captain again. Are they hard? Yes. And when you leave someone out, for me, because I was so protective of my players and my team, when someone went out of my team, I took it personally because I actually felt like I'd let them down by not improving them enough when they were in my team to be able to keep them in there. So that was the way I looked at it, and. Thankfully, Stephen Tugger had a pretty good run. He didn't have much changeover through his teams. And then, when I took over, we had a good run with, the Gillies and Haydens and Langers, those for a while. But those guys all went at once. And then the changeover started to happen a bit more frequently. We were always looking for spinners. I don't know how many spinners I had through my time as Australian Test captain, but replacing Warney wasn't an easy thing to do.
I can imagine.
So, McGrath goes, you're trying to find the next Glenn McGrath. And that's potentially what this current group's got coming up. They've got some older players that are looking at probably finishing around the same time.
Punter Bodge from Sutherland, he's gone out to the masses and he said, look, their top five's flying at the moment. They're seeing like beach balls, but there's a spot at number 6. But he did ask this question, which I love.
From Sutherland Cricket Club you're talking about?
No, he's from Heathcote, the great Bodge. But he did ask this. I love this question because everyone's always asking the good questions. But as a captain, clearly not everything goes to plan. Is there one decision you rue as a captain that sits in your mind?
Oh, there's probably a million. The obvious one, he's probably trying to lead me into this answer as well. The most documented one was winning the toss and bowling at Edgbaston in 2005, at the second test match. We'd won the first test at Lord's really comfortably. We'd gone to Edgbaston having knocked England over twice cheaply, their batsmen under pressure. We heard all week about these torrential storms that had been through the region and the wicket was going to be a little bit underdone and a little bit damp. And that was the morning, I'm not sure if you remember, that's the morning that McGrath trot on the ball in the warm-up. So for the couple of days leading in, we'd made our plans were all about wanting to bowl first and getting their batsmen back out there under pressure. And literally 5 minutes before I'm going to toss, I look over and that useless big streak is laying on his back as white as a ghost, having almost snapped his ankle. So I go out and then I'm thinking, obviously then you go out to think, geez, I hope I lose the toss now.
Yeah.
And I go out, sure enough, I win the toss. And I stuck to what we talked about. We bowled, and that's the famous game. We lost by a run.
Oh.
Is that Casper?
Casper, yeah. So that.
Did he hit it?
Well, it hit his glove. The debate's always been whether his hand was actually still on the handle or off the handle or not. If it's on the handle, it's out. If his hand is just off the handle, hits the glove, it's not out.
If we went to review, what would they say now?
I'd like to have a look at it, actually.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a real close-up look at that. It's been too hard for me to actually go back and look at that moment again, so I haven't looked at it that closely. But
we've got Ricky Ponting in studio. We've got
Shiraz
the Ricky Ponting, the Pinnacle Shiraz. You can get that on the Caribbean Cruises, by the way. That is the way to do that.
Can I ask this question? Is there RSA on Caribbean Cruises? I'm sure there would be. But what about when you go into international waters? Could I sit there at the bar and can I scull the Pinnacle while I'm sitting in the spa at 3 a.m?
You're not doing a bad job as we now, to be honest. You don't have to be on the back of the boat.
Brian, I'll tell you who's been sculling Ponting Wines. I'll tell you who I think's been sculling Ponting Wines.
Sipping it.
And you, as you're allowed to do, have your comments because you're a doyen of the game. You made some comments about the Indian side, which were along the lines of a couple of their champion players, which was what, Ricky Ponting?
I'm not sure if I mentioned a couple of them, actually. I reckon he's just thrown me in the deep end trying to find their two most experienced and make sure when they come out that they put it back on me again. But, no, look, I did an interview the other night and got asked, if I was concerned about Virat Kohli's form.
Yes.
And then I'd read that day, actually, or the day before, his stats over the last 5 years. So it was clear in my mind before I got asked the question. And he'd only made, I think he's made 2 Test match hundreds in the last 5 years.
Yes.
He's averaged 90 in India in that period, and now his average is down under 30 in India. So if I said, yes, I would be concerned about his form because of his output. I said, if you ask him about his form, I'm sure he'd be concerned about it because it's nowhere near what it used to be. But I said, he loves playing in Australia. He's got a great record here. If there's a tour that he's ever going to turn it around on, it's going to be here in Australia because you never write off the great players. Well, they didn't talk about the second part of that.
No, that's right.
And then Gambhir goes and faces the press, having just lost 3-0 to New Zealand. So the hairs on the back of his neck are already standing up.
Correct.
We've got a bit of history as well, him and the Indian coach. So he took a chance to fire one back at me, but I'm sure we'll sort it out.
Okay, hang on, Brian. Brian, here is Gambhir after he's broken, which we assume, all sorts of RSA laws. Here is Gambhir talking about our man Ponting.
Ponting recently made a statement that some other player might have been under pressure, given he had about 3 centuries in 5 years or something like that.
What does Ponting Ponting has to do with Indian cricket? I think you should think about Australian cricket, and more importantly, I've got no concerns whatsoever for Virat and Rohit.
Did you realise you're a commentator?
As I said, he's and you'll see during the summer, he's a prickly little customer. That didn't come out that right.
No. We're going to cut that too.
Yeah.
The lee's going to be left out of it.
Yeah. that second glass of wine's starting to get to me already.
But just on that, on the Kiwis giving it to them over there, should we be worried? Do you think now it's going to...
Well, they've played well in Australia in the past.
Yeah.
I actually think they're a better team away from home now than they are at home.
Why is that?
I just don't... And this is well documented. The modern Indian player doesn't play spin as well as they once did. So... teams over there in the past have competed well against them. England beat them there years ago. For New Zealand to be able to go there and beat them 3-0, no one would ever imagine that possible. And what they do at home now, India, and what they've done for a while is obviously prepare wickets for what they want, which are generally wickets that spin a lot from day one. But if you think about it, that brings less skilled spinners into the game a little bit more because there's more in the wicket for them, and their batters aren't coping as well.
Gotcha.
But there was a big push in Indian cricket 10 years ago, about they couldn't win away from home then. So they started preparing wickets that suited the faster bowlers more. They've started producing more fast bowlers.
Right, enough of that, Brian. Our show's about to finish. Okay. I need to ask this question. The God. Who's our young God? Konstas. We can't let you go, Ricky Ponting, without a comment on Sam Konstas. He's following your steps, it seems.
Yes, I watched a lot of his highlights.
10 seconds.
For the first Shield game this year, double hundreds in that. I got asked then. I thought they'd pick him in the Test team. Then I thought a bit deeper about it. No experience around Australia yet. Give him 12 months where he's played at the Gabba, played in Perth, a bit more experience. He's got all the talent. He'll open the batting for Australia within 18 months.